the goal of this is really just to tell your story, right? And those that we believe are like legends in death care, and make sure everybody knows your story and what got you here and where you came from. So this is going to be very focused on you. I'm going to ask some questions about the ICCFA for sure along the way, but this is more about understanding you. So let me start with this. I'm going to read the bio, so like everyone knows who we're dealing with here. So Nadira is the executive director, sorry, of the International Cemetery, Cremation and Funeral Association, or the ICCFA. Brings more than 30 years of dedicated service to the organization and the death care profession. Throughout her tenure with ICCFA, Nadira has held a wide range of leadership roles, giving her deep institutional knowledge of the association and a strong understanding of the evolving needs of its members. Her experience spans membership, operations, governance, strategic initiatives, and meeting planning, including oversight of major events such as the ICCFA experience. Her breadth of experience positions her as a trusted leader and resource within the profession. As executive director, Nadira is responsible for guiding the association's strategic direction, strengthening member engagement, and advancing ICCFA's mission to support and elevate cemetery, cremation, and funeral service professionals. She works closely with the board of directors, committees, and industry partners to ensure ICCFA continues to deliver meaningful programs, advocacy, education, and high-quality events. Nadira is known for her long-standing commitment to the profession, her collaborative leadership style, and her ability to build strong relationships across all segments of ICCFA's diverse membership. So, really honored to have you on here. And you and I think, we met a long time ago, but like a few years ago, I feel like we really met and got to spend some time together, which was awesome. So I'm going to start off with a couple questions here, because I think let's maybe normally I want to hear like your growing up years, and we're going to get to that here in a minute. But I think if we focus on the ICCFA a little bit here at the beginning, that'd be great. You cool with that?
Sure.
Okay. First question. This pronounce your last name for us.
It's Baddeliyanage. That's my married name, but it's Baddeliyanage.
Baddeliyanage.
Yep. Oh, okay. That's it.
All right. I was afraid to try and read it. I mean,
that's all right.
I know I've asked you before, but it's a tough one to try to remember. So let's start with like your history with the ICCFA. You've been in the ICCFA for 30 years.
Yes.
And how did you get a job to begin with? And just kind of give us that background story of.
Oh, it's quite a story. It's very interesting, totally by accident. My life here in the United States started in 1990 in Southern California. I was one of the early green card lottery winners, and I was born and raised in Sri Lanka, a little island far, far away in the Indian Ocean. But my mom had applied for this green card lottery, and lo and behold, I was from 1.3 million people, I was a winner. So wow. I landed in Los Angeles, California, just because I had some cousins there who were going to, take me in for a couple of months. And so that's how I first came here. And I'd met my husband, we had gotten married, and he was U.S. Air Force as well as working in IT around this area. So we went where his job was. So that's what made me move to Reston, Virginia after we got married in 1995. And I remember he was doing a shift work and we only had one car. And there was the local newspaper, I think it was called the Reston Connector. And there was this tiny little ad, a trade association looking for temporary help to clean the database. And the reason I didn't know anybody here in the East Coast or in Virginia other than my in-laws. We had just moved and I needed to do something. So I applied to this ad. I had no idea it was the ICCFA or this profession, but I knew I could walk from our little townhouse. I could walk to this. I had no transport. So we went, my husband drove me to the interview. He sat downstairs. I go after hours to this office and I was like, wow, this is something, because I was interviewed by a gentleman who was then the executive director. And it was like 7 in the night, and I was like, this is really crazy. I don't even know if this is real. But they told me I was highly overqualified for the job. They could pay me $7.50 an hour, and they had this massive database that had numerous duplicates, and that my job would be tediously cleaning that up. That was it. And I was like, hey, so we interviewed. I came back and I was like, I don't know about this place, but so my husband said, do you know the name of the place? I said, well, I got so excited I didn't even look at the name, because the ad only said it's a trade association. Didn't say in the, death care profession, none of that. And so anyway, before we went home, we had no cell phones those days. There was a message on the land phone saying I was hired if I wanted the job, and they could pay me $7.50 an hour, and that's all they could do. This was 1996. And I was like, all right. I thought if I go in a normal day into the office, there may be more people. I could see how it is. And then if I didn't like it, I'm a temp. What do I have to lose? So I started, and I worked for a gentleman who was running operations at the time, and tediously worked on cleaning this old database up, running reports. And within a couple of months, the meetings assistant quit just a couple of weeks before their annual convention. And my then boss looked at me and said, hey, Nadira, you're capable. Do you think you can fly to Orlando and run registration? And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. And so I had to buy a couple of suits. We had to dress up those days. It was a different dress code. Went to Orlando, had no idea what a convention was, no idea what registration meant. I'm a finance person. That's what I do. And I somehow ran registration, and then the rest is history. I said yes to everything. I think that was the first thing. Whatever they asked me to do, I said, I'll learn it, I'll do it. And here I am 30 years later.
Wow. So temp to the top.
Yep.
But so the database, sorry, were you like duplicates of funeral homes, funeral directors? Just, was it that like membership or what?
Membership, all membership. So what we did those days was you buy these big lists, I think, for promotional reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was the capability like you have today to first, before you merge things, to check. So they would dump those in. So you're creating this as you go along. Mm-hmm. And so it was very tedious. Don't ask me now how I did it or to do it anymore. We don't even use that platform of, software anymore. But it was custom made for ICCFA, and it was very efficient at the time. But there was, like if there was Jack Smith Funeral Home, there would be 10 of those. So some of them have, if you had transactions, there would be money in it. So you can't just delete it. You have to find a way to merge all the transactions into one main record before you delete the rest. So there was not just, going and deleting things. There was a method to it. But it was a job. I met nice people. I like the people who work there. And my thing is, you're new in a place, you don't know anybody. And I thought this was really nice. I enjoyed it. And my growth within the association was very fast. I mean, I moved along in different positions really quickly. So
yeah, so you started in 1996, and how long have you been the executive director?
I believe I took over in 2011.
Okay.
Before that, I ran operations. I did some HR and administration, booth sales, advertising sales, and a long period was spent in event planning. That was, if you ask me what I enjoyed the most, that was the position I loved the most.
And that was planning like the annual convention and.
Yes, all of it. The main 4 meetings and some other trainings we used to have, that all, I used to do all that work.
Yeah. So give us the main 4 meetings. You just mentioned them. Give us the main 4 meetings and kind of like the purpose of each one.
Okay, so we have 4 main meetings, and the ICCFA Annual Convention and Expo is now rebranded to the ICCFA Experience. That's once a year. They are all annual. And this is where we have our expo as well as the attendees. And, it is the biggest event we do and the most amount of work that goes into planning that. It's like almost a year out. When one ends, the other one begins. We start the year with DEAD Talks. It's a high-paced 2.5-day training in sales, primarily. It's one of a kind. It's I'm sure you've attended one or two. It's very fast moving, a lot of good information, and the content. The program is, I think, it's excellent, and we have a great committee that tirelessly works with the staff to put this on, and it's the largest, most active, one of the most active committees within the ICCFA. Very dedicated folks. And then comes ICCFA University every year in July at Emory University. The chancellor is Jeff Kidweiler, and that is just like a university format. So we have 9 colleges currently, and the best of the best in the industry teach there. So it's an experience. It's a week long, and just learning is one part of it. The other part is that you meet people that become, those relationships grow, you become friends, and they are there to help you with your business, help you with whatever crisis you're dealing with. And it's just such a unique program. So it's one of the best events I think we put on. I like all 4, but in different ways. But university holds a very special place in my heart. It's we used to be at the University of Memphis, and there's nothing like being in Memphis for a week in July, but we loved it. I mean, you play trivia, you play sports. There's that connections you make there that, last your whole lifetime. And then we have our Fall Leadership Summit, which is mainly to have an in-person, the second board meeting, but we focus on leadership and the topics that our members are dealing with in that level. And so this happens somewhere in September or October. So besides those, we have a whole webinar series that's open to members and non-members, as well as we do some cremation training and operating, which is run by Paul Lamasters.
And you're being very kind right now to record this podcast 2 weeks before the annual ICCFA experience. So I appreciate you taking time for it. And so the DEAD Talks, is that the most, is that the newest of the 4?
No, it's just also has been rebranded. So It was called, I think at one point, I remember it being called Naked Sales. That used to really, I was very new then, and, I was the meeting planner. I'm like, where did that name come from? And the Sales and Marketing Conference, which, but eventually DEAD Talks came to be after TED Talks. So It's very quick. It's 20-minute sessions of different speakers. And I think what's so nice about this program is that it moves so fast. That fast pace, that energy, you can't get that elsewhere, I think.
Yeah, maybe provide some more kind of info on that when you say it's sales related.
So anything to do with pre-need selling, topics of, it does have different topics, but primarily towards your sales team and counselors. But there's something for managers, there's something for the counselors, there's something for everybody. Have you attended one of those?
Just one, yeah.
Yeah. So it has grown since. And last year we had close to 400 attendees. This year, I believe we were a little less, around 360. So it happens with all, so there is, cremation sales. The topics vary. So every year, the committee and the staff, we get together and we go through the proposals we get. And then sometimes we gear it towards what we want. Cremation and cremation sales is a big topic that people want to see more education on, how to, kind of improve your sales process, sales tracking, all the things that come under that umbrella is what is addressed here. And we always like to have a keynote with a broader topic to kick off stuff as well.
Yeah, that's an event where Tukio's, we always have someone there. It's like there's like a handful of events each year where there's like people are fighting over who gets to go.
Right.
This is one of those events. It's
Right.
like everybody always wants to be the one that gets to go. They love it.
They also, I think most of our members, in the larger companies, they'll have like sales competitions they run. And then when you kind of at the end of the year, when you win that, or you're one of those high performers, you get this trip. And this is ideally in Vegas in that environment. And it is either in January or February.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so with the experience this year, it's in 2 weeks, it's in Fort Worth. Like what are you excited about? What are you most looking forward to?
So the experience is really our convention that got rebranded last year, right? So we came together as one of our strategic brainstorming sessions here in Sterling, Virginia, and thought about that all these conventions we keep going to, it's the same format. It's a keynote, it's a breakout, it's a roundtable discussion, and we have some great leadership right now at the ICCFA, and we are very, very fortunate to have a good group, and I have a great team. So the whole idea was to rebrand it, to make it more exciting, to give it like a festival, like a music festival vibe somebody threw out, but to make it all happen in one place. So we took that giant leap in Las Vegas and tried this with 3 stages, 1 expo hall, food and beverage in the middle, lights on one speaker there. When that closes, this starts. It was a lot of excitement, and it was different. And I think, the attendees loved it. Exhibitors too had a lot of positive comments. I think the whole idea behind is ICCFA wants to create an experience for our attendee. And, great content, keep that, learn about the new products and services, have the general topics on, advocacy and legislature and all those things, but to have it in an environment that it makes it a little bit fun and exciting to learn and to be in one place. So we learned a few things. We are tweaking a few things. I know you sit on that committee, so super excited to change some things, keep, shorter exhibiting time. That was something we got, the feedback from our exhibitors. And so I'm excited to see how those, changes are going to take effect. And 2 of my favorite sessions, if you want to know, that I'm looking forward to. Chris Bashanelli is a great find. He's a amazing young gentleman. He's I had the privilege of talking to him by Zoom. He's going to talk about the power of authentic connection and how it affects, your selling and your businesses. This is a relationship-based business, right? It's all about your heart, and because our members are serving families at one of their hardest times. So you have to have that connection. You can't just be transactional. So I feel very excited about this young gentleman. He has also he's been an actor. He's from New York, and played a part in the Sopranos, I think.
Oh wow!
He's just a genuine guy, and he has a great story about this profession of ours and a connection. I'm not going to spoil that. I'm going to let him share his story. He is going to. And so I immediately felt a connection. When you meet somebody, that that's the right person that you're having at the right time. And I got that feeling, and I don't get that often. I'm very excited to have Chris with us talking about, authentic connections and how it can affect your, business decisions and the growth in your business. So that's one. And the other session is a brainchild of our legal counsel, Paul Lemasters. It's called America's Got Ashes. So that's super exciting because that is a big topic, right? Cremation is at 7. So they say that 70% of cremated remains either go unclaimed from a funeral home or remain in your house or your on the mantle or in the garage or in the attic. And so this is like a fun competition kind of format to see how we can find solutions for permanent memorialization, to get those cremated remains into the cemeteries. That is a big growing concern for our profession. So I'm sure that Paul is going to bring a lot of excitement to this. So those are the two things that I'm most excited about. And also we are honoring two gentlemen, one of whom is a mentor of mine and the reason I am here today. So Darren Rabing is being inducted to the Hall of Fame. He is the president and CEO of Forest Lawn. And he's been a mentor and someone who's encouraged me and, helped me get where I am today. I have huge respect for him and I'm very excited to be a part of that.
That's awesome. You said Darren's fantastic. You said there's two though. Who's the other one?
Yes. So the ICCFA's Educational Foundation each year gives out a Lasting Impact Award. And that is going to past president, ICCFA treasurer, and a long-time member, Ray Fru.
Awesome.
So all that's happening that night of the president's banquet.
I'm also really excited about the America's Got Ashes. I think that's going to be really, really cool, really creative, and it does seem to be. I mean, it's an issue, right? I mean,
it is. I think the growing rate of cremation is one side of it, and the other side is, that we are not having permanent placement. Right? Yeah. Cremation is okay, but with it must come memorialization and permanent placement. And in many countries, Curtis, even from the country where I was born, typically a Buddhist country, and 90%, I mean, is cremation, but it always came with tradition, burial traditions, and, a lot of memorialization. And it was never, the direct cremation is never even an option.
Yeah.
Right. So many parts of the world, cremation has been there, but the memorialization part is what is not happening here, and the permanent placement. So I think we have so much to do in that area.
Yeah, and you've in the 30 years you've been in the profession, you've probably seen that cremation rate skyrocket. Do you think it's just that it was introduced to the consumer as because I've heard people say, it's cheaper to cremate, and my response is always like, "Oh, if you take the body home, I mean, then the cremated remains home, and that's part of the reason you're saving money, I guess." But like, do you think that it was just presented as a low cost option to consumers, but it was like part of that low cost option was that you were not choosing permanent placement, or what do you think we sort of like if we had a time machine and could try to save the course a little bit in the past? Is there any thoughts there? What we could have done?
I think education is the key. I don't think that the consumer kind of thinks of that, right? I think it comes with a lot of education and resources being available to the consumer. Options being, and I think that if you walk into a funeral home to make arrangements, that we need to do a better job in presenting all this. And I think it's very important now as the generations change and their affiliation to religion is getting, a bigger gap is growing there. And I've never felt, I'm Catholic, but I've never felt that cremation is ever a direct. And as you know, I have had the experience personally. And I think that for me, I always wanted to do what's right to remember the person that we lost. And that's just not a direct cremation. Never will be, because that you love that person so much in life and they're so important to you. And so all those steps that you do is to remember and celebrate that life. And I think that that has to come with education directly to the consumer. I don't know how to do that, but you have to want that for your loved one.
Yeah. And, a lot of times, like, as a consumer buying something, you may not really, you don't really maybe value something until it's sort of explained to you. If you don't, so I'm just thinking, like, a couple of years ago, I had a guy come into my house my furnace went out, and I was just having some guy come in to, like, I need a new furnace. And I just thought he was going to come in and measure it and
Right.
then give me a furnace that was that same size.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, he wants to sit down at the kitchen table and pull my wife in, then he starts educating me on furnaces and filters and humidifiers, built-in humidifiers, all this stuff
Right.
that, but it was like, when that moment is, you kind of take that, and someone takes a second, and that's happening at the level of, like, HVAC. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
I feel like if someone took a family out to a cremation garden or
Right.
to any, and just mentioned, like, if you take the cremated remains home and put it on the mantle, it's going to just sort of be forgotten there, even though that
Right.
it's there every day. The, like, significance of it is going to not really be there, versus, for me, what would make it special is you have a place to go. You're physically leaving your house and
Right.
intentionally going somewhere to think about that person.
Right.
And that's a better way to honor their memory. And if someone at the funeral home just gave you that little snippet, like, that might change it. And I'm sure, I know, like, in all the trainings and education that ICCFA is providing, I imagine that's part of those sales.
It is.
Like,
and I can tell you personally, I know a lot of our members do it really well. I just think, but that is when at need, or when that happens. I think that there has to be some way, I don't have all the answers, that you get people thinking about it, especially the generations, the younger generation, start thinking about these things before. Like, death is also such a taboo subject to some people, right? They don't want to talk about it. But I think you have to have those open conversations. If you're alive, we all believe, that's the end. I mean, we believe we'll live again in eternity in a different realm, or in, whatever your belief is. However, it's a conversation you have to have. I think it's very important to start those conversations, and the gap is with the consumer. We have to find a way to get to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So what programs exist with the ICCFA now? Are there some consumer outreach sort of elements to the association?
We have one project that I'm working with some other folks. It's not out there, but it's about kind of putting together all the resources one needs for a grief journey, not necessarily in death itself, but there are people who grieve for different, like, for example, if you're newly divorced, or so there is a group. I don't want to go into specifics right now, but it's in the works, and we want to join them and help them. But it's trying to put all the resources you need for a grief journey, and, like, how do you have a last will, how do you choose what is the end of life process for your loved one, kind of compiling all that in one place, based mainly for the consumer. I think that that's a great project, and those are those side projects we do, to give back, to make the profession better, because at the end of the day, that's our overall goal, right? We want to leave this world a little bit better than we found it. So,
yeah,
those
absolutely.
sorts of projects, I think, are very important.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So that brings up question. ICCFA membership. Like, what if I am a funeral home owner and I become a member of the ICCFA? What benefits come along with that membership?
So I like to say we have three main areas for anybody: a funeral home, a cemetery, a supplier. If you ask me why they should be part of the ICCFA, first and foremost, ICCFA is that umbrella for the entire memorialization industry. We kind of hold a little bit of a unique place in the profession for that, because we have members that are cemeteries, funeral homes, suppliers, monument dealers, students. I mean, we have the whole umbrella to fall under. And the main reason, the number one benefit that you should join an association like ours and support us is the advocacy work we do on behalf of you. Because you can't do it on your own in the federal level. And it's so important. It's one of the most exciting weeks here in Washington for us. And it is really to have our voice heard and to talk to decision makers and lawmakers about the issues that we have in our profession. And ICCFA takes that really very seriously. And we have our legal counsel, as well as a lobbying company and a legal and legislative committee, and our leadership that comes to town somewhere in March and April each year. And we spend a couple of days at the Hill, talking to these lawmakers or their staff and pushing forward our issues. And that can't be done for you on your own. So that is what ICCFA can do for you. And most of your dues that you pay, a large part of it goes to bring you that benefit. The second, I think, is I know is our education. We take pride in bringing real good content, and I'm very, very happy that we can do that, because a lot of thought goes into it. We figure out what our members are dealing with, what your challenges are, what education you need. And so that's the second reason. And the third reason is the networking we bring. ICCFA is a very tight-knit community. People want to help each other. That's something I noticed, and I was actually in awe in my early years here. They're so open, and if you have some issue and you call somebody and say, hey, how do you deal with this at your funeral home? Or they will tell you the whole story. And I just love that. I see it happening, and we are able to put people together. Like if a member calls in and says, hey, I'm having this issue at my cemetery or funeral home, we are happy to find these wonderful people we have that are doing it right or have the answers and connecting them. That kind of networking, I think, is so important in any line of business, but mostly in our profession. So though if somebody asks me why you should join ICCFA, it's the advocacy we do on a federal level on your behalf, having your voice heard, the education we provide, and the networking opportunities we give you.
That's excellent. On the advocacy side, what are some of the issues that are being addressed now or this year?
So this year we have a couple of issues, but some of the main ones that we are dealing with and trying to push forward is the Consensual Donation Research Integrity Act, which deals with the body broker issue. We are actually asking for more legislature on body donation. So there is, it's not regulated enough. So if somebody passes and leaves your body for science, we want to make sure that the family is aware that there are some bad situations there, but all we are saying is that must be upfront.
Yeah.
So when you donate your body, and so that's one of the issues that we are really pushing forward right now. And the other one is the Funeral Expense Act, where now if you have an HSA, a health savings plan, and you pass and you have money, pre-tax dollars in it, the ask is that it be allowed to be used for your final funeral expenses. So that's something. I mean, it's a no-brainer, but sadly, it's a bigger part of the Healthcare Act, is what I understand. So that's something that we are pushing. And the other one that this has been going on for a while is the the legislation to benefit cemetery trusts by increasing the deduction we have on those plots from like $5 to $25. That goes totally to maintain a cemetery in perpetuity. But this was an old legislation piece of legislature that happened in the 1970s, I want to say, and it has remained at $5. But as you know, that $5 does not go a long way. So the ask is to increase it to 25. So those are some of the main issues. And it's amazing to see that week and to see our members come in here and we visit these leaders and their staff and talk about these things. It's really it's just one of the best things we do.
Oh, that's so cool. Has there ever been any advocacy on the side of, I think there's like, what is there, like a $350 funeral allowance or something that's given federally to every person or something like that? There's some number that was put in there like 100 years ago and it stayed the same, where it like used to kind of cover the cost of a funeral.
Oh,
do you know
really?
what I'm talking about? My mom passed away, about a year ago, and I remember learning about that, and I was like, what is this? And I was working with the funeral home. And they're like, oh yeah, it's just the number that like is thrown in as part of so I think it's from Social Security.
Really?
Yeah. And it was like, 100 years ago when they put that in place, it actually was helpful. And like now it covers like a flower arrangement.
That's right. No, unfortunately, I'm not aware of that.
That'd be one that'd be interesting to
look into. That's something for me to talk to Paul and Dakim about.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So, and as as a vendor, I remember my first time to ICCFA was probably 2009. And we've been there ever since. It's been a great association to be a part of as a supplier, and we appreciate all that you're doing and everything you've done on our behalf. So anything else, like, before we shift gears to kind of like your life, like on the ICCFA side that you would want the profession to know, or we feel like you've covered it pretty good?
I think I've covered it very good, but I can tell you that our overall mission, we are here to serve our members, and that's what this staff likes doing the most, me included. And our ultimate goal is we want to help our members better serve their families. So whatever it takes, whether it's in the form of education, the help, the conversations, that's the goal. And lastly, I'll say that a lot of these folks ask me, so why did you stay for 30 years? And ultimately, it boils down to the mission. I love that I am able to help people on a daily basis, even in a small way. And the other thing is the people I met. 30 years of the people that I'm so fortunate to call most of them a friend, and when I have needed them in my own crisis and my grief journey, this group has been there for me all the way. So they are wonderful people, and I feel very honored and privileged to run their association.
Oh, that's excellent. No, thanks for sharing that. So let's back all the way up. Tell us about Sri Lanka. You're born in Sri Lanka.
Yes, it's a tropical island. It's in the tip of India, but totally a different little island. And it was colonized. We got our independence in 1948. I think the Dutch, the Portuguese, and finally the British. And so there's a lot of British influence. Tea time is a big deal. The beaches are amazing. The food is a whole culinary experience. People are warm and friendly and open and very welcoming. Different ethnicities coexist. We did have a span of a civil war, but thankfully that's behind us. And it's really a beautiful place. My childhood was very simple. I was born to working class parents, but they gave us unconditional love and taught me right from wrong. I was very privileged to attend a very elite all-girls Catholic school. Friendships that I have had over 50 years now. And
Wow.
actually, yeah, we met up in New Zealand and Melbourne just this past January, February for 3 weeks. And it's just amazing. You just pick up like it was yesterday. And these five ladies, we have been friends for a very long time. And we live around the year, and we try to meet up every couple of years. But these are all, friendships and values that was instilled in me from my childhood to growing up there.
And was the I know I can find Sri Lanka on a map, but I don't
Yes.
what language is spoken there. It was English
So
your primary language there?
now Sinhalese is their official primary language, but because of the colonization and the British influence, most people speak English. So that's a real advantage.
Okay, so when you were in school, was it English that the teachers were speaking?
Now, my time, we primarily learned in Sinhalese, and English was our second language. But at home, my parents, we spoke English, so that was easy for me. So I knew both. But now it's an option. You can choose English medium if you want, or you can study in Sinhalese.
Okay, and is your do you still have family there?
Just my mom. My mom and my brother live in Sri Lanka. My mom's 88 this year.
Oh wow.
Still does crossword puzzles, and she was with me for a while. She helped me raise my children when I was working, but we lost my father in 2016. Uh, but yeah, I go back at least once a year to see her, and enjoy it's so much advancement there too. I mean, the hotels, it's also a tourist destination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool. And you've got a brother. Any other siblings?
No, that's it. Just me and my brother.
And how old were you when you came to the United States?
I believe so just before my 21st birthday.
Okay.
Do the math now. It's
That's
awful.
no, that's so awesome. So if you go to Sri Lanka, like, well, how do you get there? Like when you fly there, what are your stops typically?
Okay, first and foremost, like there are some food from our childhood. So tea time, as I told you, is a big deal, right? So even when you're working in like banks and the commercial, at 3 o'clock, this guy comes with this trolley, like a tea cart, and everybody can have tea. And so with that goes these, they call it short eats, but it's like little hors d'oeuvres that you enjoy at tea time, like little empanadas and little rolls and all that, and little tea sandwiches. That's a big deal, and that's so nostalgic to me still. So that's one of my, not that I cook, I love cooking. We cook a lot here. But I like to go to those special places. I like to get certain things from. And then, of course, the beautiful beaches. Who does not want to sit on a beach? I mean, the water is gorgeous, clear blue. The skies, I mean, the sunsets and sunrises are amazing. Such a beautiful country.
And it seems like a lot. Like I feel like I see Sri Lanka on clothes a lot, like made in Sri Lanka. Right?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
there something about Sri Lanka that why they would make more clothes there than other people?
Well, labor is cheap. So
Okay.
I mean, I know Calvin Klein, all those big designers, they have, the factories are there. And so it's an income source for the country, as well as, I suppose, work for people.
Yeah. Okay. Then you came to the U.S. 21, L.A., and you met your husband in L.A. How did you meet your husband?
Long story short, oh my gosh, I hope he'll never listen to this, but he will. I met him when I was on a trip back home, but we
Oh,
realized
okay.
we were from, yeah, both. And he was Sri Lankan too. I had no idea. They had migrated when he was very young.
So you met him in Sri Lanka?
Yes, he was there for work.
Oh, no way. And then
Hmm.
you found
Yes,
out that you were both living in the U.S. Was he in
yes.
the L.A. area at that time?
No, he was in the East Coast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wild.
Yes, it is. And
And
he loves saying this story. So the day I entered the US, you know how when it's stamped when you first entered, that was actually his birthday. I had no
oh,
idea. So I never knew him, never met him. But that date was his birthday that I first entered the United States.
that's cool. That's
That's
pretty special.
weird. Yes.
Okay, tell us about your family, your kids.
Yeah. So you know my story. Been married 31 years, two beautiful sons. And my oldest we lost in 2019, very, very suddenly and very tragically. He was in Puerto Rico on spring break and never came home. So that changed my whole life. I am not the person, not the woman I was before. I don't know how, grief is very personal, but losing a child, no matter what the circumstances, it's the toughest of all, I think. And you just learn to move forward, carrying them with you. But you can't be the same. Not a mother, not me. I know I can't. He was the love of my life, my firstborn son. Smart, kind, all of it. He had just graduated from UVA and was going to medical school. So that changed our whole world. And I always say this, maybe a long time ago, I found my way to ICCFA just by accident. Maybe the universe needed me to be here when this happened, because if not for these folks that surrounded me so much with their love and their care, and I would not be here and I wouldn't be a functioning human being. Um, and I have to give a huge shout out to Jay Dodds, who was the president that year, who stood by me, with me, because I was a mess. And he is one of the reasons that I remained here. It let me focus on something and gave me purpose, this overwhelming purpose to help people. And so I think that's why I am still here. And then my youngest son, he's 5 years younger than Rehan, the oldest. And he's graduated too from UVA, and he works for Deloitte. He lives on his own, and slowly finding his way. He and his brother, they were best friends, so it was really a hard time for him as well. And I actually feel very sad for him, because I feel, half of my life is almost at that end, right? He's the one who has to be without a sibling, and I feel for him, but he makes me proud every day, because we get up and we show up for what we need to do, and that takes courage. So I admire him for that. We have a scholarship that Rehan's friends and his brother created at the University of Virginia, and every year, this is the sixth year. Next weekend we will be at UVA and giving out the sixth scholarship, and it has grown. They invest the initial amounts where people donate, it's invested, and they give the interest earned every year, and it's grown to about 6 to 8 thousand a year now.
Wow.
And the kids do it all. I only make a donation, and I show up to give out the scholarship. So this coming up weekend is scholarship weekend for Rehan at UVA. So those
Oh,
my
that's
kids. My
great.
husband and I have been married for 31 years, and you met him, and yeah, he's able to travel with me a little now, rather than when he was, he had these Air Force commitments, and it was hard for us to. And when you have kids, it's just one of us had to be here. That's the crazy mom I was. I wouldn't even leave them and go with anybody else.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
your story speaks volumes for how much, how close your family is, how much love's there. What were some of the things that would you say have been most helpful in your grief? Is there anything that sort of like jumps out?
Yes, as I told you, grief is very personal to everybody. So I can't say what works for me works for someone else. But I know that I have to always I want to talk about my son. He was 21 when we lost him. And honestly, even though that whole time was a blur, we had 650 people at his funeral service. Wow. I had no idea. I mean, yes, there were few family, my ICCFA family that made it here. But we were like, who are these people? And this was without the students from UVA, because we stopped them being bused to Virginia, to Sterling, and we had a separate memorial at UVA for him because we thought this would be just entirely too much. But in his short time, he impacted so many people, and I think the hardest part for somebody going through grief is to think that your loved one will be forgotten. That's the hardest part. And for me, I don't want my son to be forgotten. So talking about him, doing things to remember him, remembering and celebrating his birthday. And it comes in stages. At the start, I couldn't do any of these things. I just cried for oceans for one whole year. I didn't know. I lost my faith for a long time. I believed I was a, God-fearing woman. I didn't, I did everything the way I was supposed to do. And I was like, why? Why did you pick me? And I was so faithful. And, take my son. And so you go through that. But slowly I found my way back to my faith, and our church community too embraced us. And but for me, I talk about him. I carry him in my heart. I talk to him every day. As crazy as that may sound to somebody, he's like my sounding board. After I pray every day, I talk to him. And so that keeps me going. So I try to live a life that he would be proud of me, for him and for me. So, I don't put anything off for tomorrow. If I can do something today, I'll do it.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that. It's really, thank you. It's beautiful. Well, it's hard to change the subject from there, because I think, you that is so important. And to your point, speaking about him keeps, keeping the memories alive is what,
yep,
keeps him here. So, well, yeah, I've got other questions, but I feel like, again, that's just such a,
no, please ask. I understand. I mean, it's, and the thing is, you think we work with this profession day in and day out. You're never prepared when it's your own. And you're never, I also lost my father, but he lived a good life. I was happy he wasn't suffering anymore. He was 85. And that pain and grief is very different to the pain I still feel every day about losing my 21-year-old perfectly healthy son. Yeah. So, because that just changes you. There is no going back. You can never be the person you were before. You just have to be this, and hope that through all the broken parts of me, that some light will find its way. But Rehan was very kind. He was very generous. And I always, even to date, we lost him 12th of March, 2019. So every 12th, I will do a random act of kindness to honor him. Just something small. Call a friend that I haven't talked to, or pay for the coffee in the person behind me. I always want, because he was like that. He's the kid who brought every broken animal home to be mended, like a bird one time. Or he came home at 17 without a shirt. And I was like, what happened now? Well, he had given his shirt to somebody else. Wow. I was like, really? And you're driving home without a shirt? I got so mad with him. I still remember that day. But those are the little things that I remember, because now there is, we are empty nesters. We have this home where we raised our children. Both, my older son is on his own journey. Younger one lives separately, and then you're left with all these memories, right? For most part, they're wonderful memories, and I won't take any of it back, or, I would never do it any other way. However, it's you have to live with this, and you can't be the person you were. It's not humanly possible.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
can't even imagine at all.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, to your point, like the profession, it's like, I mean, my mom passed away last year, and I still think, like, without question, the most impactful thing was the outreach from the profession. I couldn't believe it. I was blown
Yes.
away by it. Like, in terms of things, letters,
Me
emails
too.
sent, messages online,
Right.
walking into the visitation when it's about to begin, and seeing, like,
Exactly.
flower arrangements all over the place
Hmm.
from funeral homes. There were funeral
Right.
homes sending flowers to this other funeral home, and it just blew me away. But for me, this last year, I've realized, like, why it's important that we take a moment to reach out when someone's
It
experienced a
is.
loss.
Because your little time that you need to do that makes such a big impact. I still have people that on that day or on his birthday who will say, just you don't have to say a lot, because sometimes you don't need to say the wrong things either. Like, all you can say is, I'm thinking of you. But that means a lot. That means that you remembered that my son was alive, that he lived, and and that gives me so much comfort. So I truly believe in my heart that I was meant to be here, knowing that this was what was written for me to bear. And so at that time I was surrounded by the best people. So I truly believe there is the future of our profession is so bright because there are good people doing incredible work every day helping families. I really believe that.
Yeah, no, I do too, and it's what's kept me, I mean, involved, and why I love working with funeral directors. Is just, they're such good people. I've started companies in other industries, and it's different. These people are called to this role, and I get, I go to their defense a lot when, you're in social situations and people are like,
Right.
oh, no, funeral homes try to rip you off, and I'm like, no, not
No.
at all. Like, if you had to do the work that they do,
Right.
you would demand so much more.
Right. And they
Like,
show up. They show up, and especially we witnessed it during the pandemic. I mean, how exhausted mentally and physically these folks were, but yet they showed up.
yeah,
So I have huge respect for them, and I know I couldn't do that side of the work every day because I get very emotionally involved, and I can feel, you're more sensitive to other people's pain now because you kind of know where you've been, right? So it's really important. They have my respect, and I love that I'm here and able to do work for the association. It's the members. This is a members association, so I feel very privileged.
yeah. No, I think it makes all of us feel better if we can try to make their lives a little bit better and help them plan better funerals, and memorialize people better, and serve the family better, and lift the burden from the family better. If there's
Right.
anything we can do to lighten the load for funeral directors, that's why I think makes our work in the profession so fulfilling. Well, I'm looking forward here in a couple of weeks to seeing you in person in Fort Worth. I'm looking forward to the food in Fort Worth. I love the food
Yes.
there. I'm looking forward to the programming at the ICCFA experience. One last question, though, wrapping up here, and I don't know if you got this one in advance, so hopefully this isn't like dropped on you, because this is there anything about you? I mean, already, like, being born in Sri Lanka and everything else is pretty cool. Is there anything about you that would, like, surprise us? That just would, yeah, like, it's something you share, like a two truths and a lie kind of a thing, that you could slip in there and people wouldn't believe.
I don't know. I'm pretty much an open book. However, I will see, a lot of our members see me out there always, working and, talking and networking, and you have this, my gosh, this is just a perfect fit. She's so outgoing and she's there. But at the end of the day, I'm just, I like my quiet time, a book, binging my show, and having a cup of tea. So, but people will say, really? because I do. I mean, I enjoy that, but sometimes you have to winding down is important too. So I know there's a lot of people who know me. They're like quite shocked that I will want to stay home and kind of read my book kind of day. But I don't know. There's nothing that I don't have any particular one good thing to tell
So
you.
naturally, though, would you say you're an introvert?
A little bit, and I had to adapt to uh, being the face and the front. That was a big transition for me, and going way out of my comfort zone. I always wanted to be behind the scenes doing the work, but I had to also, this role comes with being the face of the association, and I had to kind of accept that first.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being that person for all of us. Cause I know with me, it's like, again, I've been attending the ICCFA for a long time, got a chance, had chances to meet you, but spending some time with you a few years ago and meeting your husband and everything. And just, I just appreciate your, willingness to just reach out and befriend me as well and get me more involved in
Thank
the
you.
ICCFA. It's been a great experience for me. So yeah, thanks again for your time. I know you've got a lot to prepare for here in the next couple of weeks, so I'll let you go. And thanks for everybody for listening to PodCasket and hearing Nadira's story today. As you're definitely a legend in the profession, and or honored to be able to try to share your story with everyone.
Thank you. I'm humbled that you had me on, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for all that you do.
Of course, thank you,
All
Nadira.
right. Bye bye.